Hi, and welcome to the Locker Room. I am one of your hosts, Justin Hamm, and thank you so much for joining us as we journey through tough issues that guys face as athletes and in humans. Today we have a very special guest. It's our other co-host, but let's welcome him. This is Vincenzo Pepe. He's here this afternoon, this morning, whenever you're listening to it, as we discuss the tough things that guys face and we navigate the questions of guys, God, and does it matter. So, Vincenzo, thank you so much for being here. I know our audience is hopefully familiar with you. Maybe it's some new listeners who don't know, but let's assume that they're new. Vincenzo, give us a little bit of a backstory on who you are and kind of what the role is you play, not just in
Yeah,
this podcast, but in life.
yeah. Well, grateful to be on my own podcast as a guest, so thanks for
Whoop,
having
whoop.
me.
Of course.
Yeah, so just FCA wise, quick, I guess. I am the Hudson Valley director for New York State Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So pretty much everything south of Albany, which is your area, all the way
Mm,
down to like the Jersey, New York City border. That's my area. I've been on staff since November of 2021, which has been exciting. A lot of, when I came on, there was really no ministry happening, no FCA happening. So we've been building from the ground up. And so, a couple of years down the road, we have, quite a few huddles going on, a lot more coaches coming on, a few staff that are getting ready to come on full time with us. So really excited just about everything that God's been doing through our volunteers, through the ministry and all that stuff. So super grateful for all of that. Personally, I got into this. I really found FCA because of one of my passions. Well, actually, really both of my passions um, were Christ and sports, and that's how I kind of stumbled upon FCA in many ways. But prior to coming on with FCA, I was a baseball coach. I still coach. I kind of gave up being a head coach of a travel team last year, but still coach here and there, do some training, things like that. Played college ball all the way through, and then started coaching pretty much immediately. And then right before FCA, I was running a baseball and softball training facility down by us. I was the general manager and the tournament director there. So it was really like my first experience into like the sports world as a job, which was really awesome. And now I've been able to take a lot of those skills into FCA. But yeah, I love baseball. I love all sports really. But baseball, I'm super excited about. Like the football season's almost at an end. That means catchers and pitchers report
that's
in like
right.
20 days or something like that. So I'm looking forward to that. Baseball season, man, it's just like when that comes around, like who's not happy? It's springtime, like it's starting to get nice out. Like it's just a great time of year. Um,
Listen, I am a convert now to the baseball train. When I was
yeah,
actually in Kansas City for an FCA training, we got to see the Royals play the Mariners. And I'm not a baseball fan, but I kind of fell in love. It was the same day Cal Raleigh hit his tied the home run record that Roger
nice.
Maris had. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be a Mariners fan now. So I'm a Mariners fan, and it
All
kind of
right.
happened by accident. So I get baseball a little bit more now. So I understand
Yeah.
that one.
And
I cut you
uh
off. I'm
and
sorry.
then been married, been married to my wife Michelle since October of 2019. And we have two little girls. One is just over two, and then just most recently we just had our second in back in November.
Mm, yes, that's awesome. For those of you who don't get to interact with Vincenzo on an everyday basis or every so often, watching him with his little girls now in videos sometimes when we have these calls and he has to be dad on the call, it's really kind of a cool thing. And he's a great dad, so it's cool to see that happen. So we're
Well,
very
you
excited.
might get a glimpse of you might
And listen,
Addison might
send
come
it.
banging on this office door in any minute.
She
So
we'll interview her. What's it like
yeah,
to be the daughter of a podcast host? But
yeah,
nah, dude, it's so cool and it's so cool to see just since I've known you, just coming into fatherhood and all of that, but also balancing ministry and a marriage. So that's kind of where I was wondering we could go today is just like, how it's so cool hearing your story actually. So there's a part of me that wants to go back to the beginning. I think when the call to FCA really became real because I mean you're newly married, you have a solid job and then for those of you who aren't aware how FCA works, in order to become on full time, you have to go raise your own support, just like any other missionary would before they would go overseas or get launched into their calling. So there's a part of me that wants to go there. So maybe we do. So like, what was that like? I mean, you were newly married at the time, and then all of a sudden FCA became an option. Like, what was that process? How did you and Michelle navigate that?
yeah. So it was kind of like a really unique season, I guess, because we got married at the end of 2019, and then very beginning of 2020, the world shut down, right? So,
Hmm.
um, and the job that I was at, I really enjoyed the actual work that I got to do. Hands-on development with training athletes, and I got to do some mental skill stuff because that's what my education is in, and running the venue, and I really enjoyed it, but it was also brutal. Like the hours were really
Hmm.
tough, probably like 10, 11 hours a day, during the week, and on weekends when tournament season, man, I was sometimes gone from like 5 o'clock in the morning to like 5 o'clock at night. So it was just really tough, especially being newly married. That's not a great schedule, having one day off, and the one day that I had off, my wife was working, so it didn't always line up. But um, so we shut down probably March of 2020. And we were closed for a little while. We were closed for maybe 3 months or so. And it was during that time, like I realized, like, yes, we couldn't actually go do anything, but it was just like the idea of like, oh, like imagine like if we were home a little bit more often, like what that could look like. And
Hmm.
so it just kind of got me thinking, like, trying to align my priorities, with what was really important to me. I feel like I definitely lost that while I was just kind of ingrained in this job. And so we did open back up, and I went back in, and I kind of had a plan of maybe I could have a little bit of a career change in this, maybe not being so hands-on in the development, maybe I could do other things. It just didn't work out, and so I left there in August of 2020, and really no plan.
Hmm.
Truthfully, it was just an environment that I needed to get out of, and so just kind of took the first job that came along, and it was a warehouse job that I was doing, and honestly, it was kind of a nice break from what I was doing. Like I got to, it was a true, I mean, it wasn't a 9 to 5, it was like a 6 to 3, but I got to go
Sure.
in, and at 3 o'clock, I got to punch out and like leave, and like I didn't have to worry about anything. Like I didn't have to bring my work home with me, so it was just kind of a nice break from that, and then eventually. I did that for a few months, and then I was like, all right, like I really want to start the job hunt again and start looking for, a
Hmm.
new career and things. And again, this is 2020, the height of COVID. Like there were very limited jobs other than maybe
Sure.
like being like a truck driver, truthfully. And so I had applied for quite a few things. I was trying to, rely on my education, master's in sports psychology. I was trying to use that to some degree. And so I found a few things, and interview after interview after application after conversation, like nothing stuck. And I remember sitting on the edge of my bed with my wife, and I've told the story, hundreds of times now, probably at this point, but I remember sitting at the edge of my bed and just kind of almost breaking down and just like kind of apologizing to her, like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like I thought like I'd be able to figure this out. Like I want to be able to provide better for us. I want to do something that's meaningful. And so we just got on our knees right then and there and prayed, and I'll never forget. It was an awesome prayer that I could look back at, right? And I just said, Lord, I'm realizing now that I'm trying to do my thing. Can you show me what you have for me instead? And that was probably the most genuine prayer I've ever prayed. Just opening
Hmm.
up my heart, and just like being humble enough to finally realize that, because I definitely did not realize that. And I just wanted like the highest paying, like, coolest job that I could find. So anyway, next day I hop on Indeed.com like I had done for like weeks, and I saw FCA, had never heard of it before. And even the chances that like it popped up now, right? And the job had been open for like months at this time on Indeed, but like I had never come across it before. I'd never heard about FCA on all my job searches of sports on whatever, like nothing came up. And so the next day I saw it, I'm like, I've never heard of it. I checked it out. Faith sports combination. All right, cool. Like was interested. I put in my application, and I it was at that point too. It was like the 100th application that I put in, so I was just like, whatever. Um,
Just another one I have to
yeah, and
throw in
so I
there.
just there wasn't a lot of hope behind it, but I said, hey, this is something. And looking back too, it's also pretty neat because the location that it was that it like said that the position was in is called Orange Lake, and now that is an area like in Orange County, but like Orange Lake is literally like a lake, so I don't even know. Like it was just weird to begin with. Like it wasn't like it's a very small little town. Like there's literally no work and like no jobs there. So I was like, what the heck? But anyway, a few days later, Dave Parks, who used to be the state director at the time, gave me a call, and we had a couple conversations. That was November of 2020, and so probably by the second phone call, I was ready to go. I wanted to get involved. I didn't know. anything about the job. I still really didn't understand what it was going to be, what my role was going to be, but I really felt like this is where I was supposed to be. So a few
Mm.
months of interviews and conversations, and then in January of 2021, he offered me the Hudson Valley director position, and went out to boot camp in March to learn how to raise support, and then in November of 21 is when I actually came on staff.
Okay. Oh, so you from March to November, that's what it took you to get fully funded. That's
Yeah,
actually that's pretty good.
yeah.
Um, Wow, that's so cool to hear that. And, actually, I don't know if I've ever heard that story. So for me, that was the first time hearing that. But the thing that really jumped out at me is when you said, that prayer you prayed on the edge of your bed with Michelle. I mean, there's a book by Craig Groeschel. I don't know if you've read it. It's called Dangerous Prayers. And
Hmm.
it's one of those ideas of, when you really let go, like that there's some danger there because you don't know what God's going to do. But if you're trusting what God's going to do, then that's what kind of makes it a little dangerous. But
Yeah.
how did you find yourself at that point? What was your like hearing it and like that? It almost sounds like it was like a moment of desperation, right? Like, your family, you're trying to provide and you feel like you couldn't. When you finally let go and I mean, not to be corny, but let go and let God, like how did you see that kind of shift your perspective on how you were feeling even in the job search?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, I was definitely at a point where in my life I felt like I was a little broken, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Just like really defeated, right? Like I had just left this
Sure.
job that I liked, but like it just wasn't a great fit. And I honestly came out of it super optimistic. I was like, hey, I have pretty good experience. I have, good education. I think I'll have no problem finding a job. And like that was a reality hit for me. And truthfully, if I wasn't like kind of defeated and broken down at that point, I don't know that I would have said yes to FCA just because of all it comes with, right? Like raising the support, not really understanding how that would work, starting a ministry from the ground up, even just going into ministry in the first place, like never
Yeah.
was, even a thought that crossed my mind. Um, so all those things, I probably would have said no if I wasn't kind of broken. And at that point, I was just like, hey, like, all right, God, this is, I'm gonna go along for the ride. Like you're just taking me step by step. So that was difficult because that was, probably the first like major life decision that I was just completely trying to let go of. And it was really difficult. I think it also helped that like I caught like when Dave Parks like kind of shared it with me. Um, I was able to, he did a really good job of just casting the vision for what FCA is and like what it could be in my area. And so I feel like I caught it really quickly. And so that's why I was willing to like be more obedient, just like step by step, just kind of go with it. Um, and Michelle was super supportive. Obviously, in the beginning, she had a ton of questions, just like most people do. Like, what is this? How do you get paid? How does that work? What are you actually going to do? Like, what is FCA? All those
Hmm.
different types of things.
Right.
And I started to share with her more and more. And I think she really started to see like there was just something about it, like within me, that she could see coming out that was really important. Important. So she was super supportive, and she was same thing. She like, I don't know what we're about to get ourselves into because she's stepping into it just as much as I was.
Absolutely.
Our
Absolutely.
spouses do that. Like, yeah, I'm the one on staff, but she's the one that truthfully is helping me do everything in the background, and is my support system. But she was really supportive of it, and she's like, hey, she's like, if this is where you feel God's leading you, then like, hey, lead us and lead our family into it, and God's going to provide in that way. And so, if I didn't have the support that she was giving me too, I think it would have been really difficult for me to really make that decision. But
Hmm.
yeah, we just kind of walked along and we just it was super big to bite off, but we just really went with it like just bite by bite, like not just trying to take the whole thing all in at once. And I think that was really what helped us. And like I said, just the way God aligned a lot of those things, he really brought me from different experiences in the past and moved a lot of things in and out of my path to align me with where I am.
And that was November of 2021, you became fully on staff. So you just had your 4 year, you're coming up on your 5 year. So
Yeah, yeah.
now, 2026, you're multi-area director. What does life look like now with you within FCA? And then the second part of that will be like, what's life like now at home? But we'll start with FCA. So, what's your life look like now, like considering where you were back then? I mean, I don't know if you can put yourself back there
Oh
on the
yeah,
edge of the
yeah.
bed, and then now to see what you're doing, and watching from where I get to see how God is just blessing, and your ministry is exploding there. You got Michael on staff now. You got other people who are becoming staff, and it's just really cool to see that. So, walk us through what that looks like now, ministry wise.
Sure. Yeah. So just early on, like I said, there was no ministry really happening here. There was no FCA. The most that I had really been aware of is there was one coach up in Ulster County who had been going back and forth with Dave to get some resources for coaches. Who I actually asked him to be on my board like right away because he was like he knew FCA, right, and so I wanted him. But prior to that, there was nothing, right. So for those first couple of years, and we're still so early on, but for those first 2 years, well, I would say this: the first year was just like we were all over the place. I put so many miles on my car and spent so much
Yeah.
money at coffee shops and just meeting as many people as possible and shaking as many hands. We went to as many community events and put up a table and did this and did that just to network and introduce ourselves. We didn't have a ton of ministry going on. We had run two camps, I think, that year, and we had started a huddle. And so I would say the first 3 years, then after that, were really me doing a lot of the ministry. It was me going to here, going there, trying to raise the support, starting a ministry, doing a camp. It was really a one man thing, and we had some decent volunteers, and we had some people really helping, but a lot of it really fell onto my shoulders, which it's all right.
Hmm.
Like that was what was needed at the time, and I was super glad to get that experience and to be that person and to do that. And then I think last year there started to become a little bit more of a transition. Last year was probably our greatest growth year, not just in numbers, but in um, in just the opportunities that we had and the lives reached. And so that's where things really started to change. We started to get a lot more volunteers. By this fall, actually, this past fall, I was able to give away every single one of our huddles. We have 7 huddles that
Wow.
meet consistently. I was actually able to give every single one of those away to a leader or to a volunteer. And so that was always been the plan, right? Like, hey, I want to
Hmm.
start these up and support them, these athletes or coaches through it. But then I want to be able to raise up leaders that can take it on and do the ministry themselves, right? And that's the multiplication process. That's our E3
Yep.
discipleship strategies, empowering them. And so we've been able to do that. And so I'd say now the last like 6 months, my role has kind of transformed from being so much in the ministry to working on it more, working on building community partnerships and building relationships, trying to fund the ministry, not just from like what I need to be on staff with my ministry, my budget, but trying to put some money away for future staff also. And recruiting has been the biggest thing, really, recruiting more staff. And so, yeah, we have Michael Toro down in Westchester who came on in June. He's hitting the ground running. He's getting ready to run his first camp next month. He's been
He's a
doing he's
dynamo.
Yeah, he's been laying a
Dynamo.
lot of groundwork, man, going to churches all over the place. We have Dave Julian in Rockland County. We have two others that are raising support here in Orange County. And then looks like we have a couple more in the pipeline that we've begun the staff conversation with. So yeah, just really awesome to kind of see now how God is he used those first couple years in that season for us to like really get things off the ground and running, and now things, people are really starting to see the impact that the ministry is having and wanting to get more involved in it.
Yeah, man, that's so cool to hear that and to see that and to get to watch it on this end of what God's doing down there and down there. It's not that far away, but looking at it at the map, it's down there
Yeah.
in your area. So at home, right? So now you have a thriving ministry, right? And I know that Michelle's a partner in that with you, but now at home now you got these two beautiful little girls now that you have to navigate, one being only a couple months old. So what's that look like? How has the work-life balance been for you?
Yeah, so a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, there's a lot to balance there, and I'm super grateful for FCA. I mean, our staff and our leadership all the way, from the local area to regional to national level, like it's just you can't work for a better organization, truthfully.
That's
Forget
true.
about the faith side of things, right? And how awesome that is, but just like amazing people. And it's always been, faith, family, FCA. And so I'm just super grateful for that. And so the support that I've been able to have, especially in the transition of, having our first and then having a second, in those transitional times of being a new dad and needing to take some time off, and just like people like you or some of our other staff just coming alongside to kind of pick up some of the slack has been awesome. It's definitely tricky, without a doubt. I mean, my wife works too, and so it's also been really important for us that like we want to be the ones to raise our children. So we wanted to make sure like daycare wasn't going to be a thing, right? Putting them in the daycare or anything like that. So we work it out with our schedules and one of us is always with at least one of them, all the time. So that's awesome. And sometimes we have to split up, and sometimes we have to play man-to-man defense and do
Yeah.
whatever we have to do. And there's a lot of messes to clean up, but I'm also grateful that this job is like an extension of my life.
Yeah.
Like my daughters don't understand it quite yet, obviously, but like being able to share in some of the stuff that I'm doing at work with them, right? Because it's God centered. Like that's a blessing that they get to see that part of it. And now that my older daughter, she's getting a little bit older, she can come with me to some things. Like she's come to me with that and to go meet with an athlete before, right? Or she's come to one of our camps before, and like
Yeah.
just to kind of sit there, but like just to kind of have her around and seeing that stuff and all that's that's awesome. But it's definitely tough. The coffee machine is definitely working
Mm.
overtime many days, early nights or early mornings and late nights and whatever the case might be. Especially with this job, right? Because we're working with coaches and athletes. It's either before school or like at nighttime is a lot of what we're doing. So just trying to find that balance, but it's difficult at times. But I also knew I tried to plan for it accordingly with the team that we were building and the volunteers that we had, that knowing what I'd be able to commit to and what not to.
Yeah, man, for sure. So just kind of just thinking about it all, right? And I know we've talked a lot FCA specifically, but I think one of the things that, and I think this could be something where we might be able to help some people listening, right? Is just that idea of, when there's a career opportunity, when there's something changing in the family dynamics, when, whatever it might look like. I think in order for us to really, especially if we're believers, to find where the best fit is, whether it's a job, whether it's adjusting to newborn babies, whatever it might be. I think it goes back to that prayer that you prayed on the bed with Michelle, being, God, like not what I want, but what you want. And I think that's the hardest part, I think, as guys, right? Whether it's, like I said, we talked a lot about the FCA part of the job, but, fill in the blank. Maybe it's becoming a teacher. Maybe it's going to school. Maybe it's getting that second degree, whatever the obstacle might be in front of you. I think as guys, we typically have that desire to want to do it ourselves or in our own strength. And as athletes specifically, we've seen what happens when we do. Like, you
Mm.
played college, you played high level baseball. I played not high level, but I played college basketball and soccer. So it's like, we have the ability in our own strength to go far. But what is it about getting to that point where it's like, you know what, I can't be in control anymore, whether it's a job change, whether it's, getting engaged, getting married, whatever the next transition is for whoever might be listening, how is it letting go? What do you find that being the most difficult part of?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of it. The hard part is the ego piece of it. Definitely. I
Mm,
mean, we live in a culture that is very much like, hey, we make our own destiny, right? And like
mm,
we have to be the one that I have to wake up super early because my competition is waking up earlier than me, and I have
yep,
to. If I'm in the corporate world, I got to make 5 sales before I have my first cup of coffee, and I got to climb the ladder and all that type of stuff. And so it's really the hardest part is just is really surrendering your life to like the priorities, right? Like what's
mm,
important. If you can get God to be the center of that, which there's definitely been times in my life, even as a Christian, like I lose sight of that without a doubt.
oh, for sure.
Don't get me wrong, like within FCA, even it's difficult. Like we're surrounded by awesome Christian men and women and spiritual giants, but I can come down to my office and like just get right to work because I'm like, hey, I got this plan, I'm gonna go do it. But am I really like always taking the time to like pray like for God's guidance in all of it?
Yeah,
Truthfully, no. And then I'm reminded of that very quickly when things aren't going the way that they need to, or he just puts something in front of me that's like, hey, like slow down, like this you're doing this the wrong way. But I think that's always the hardest part of the Christian life is just laying that stuff down. But it's also like super freeing once you really do, and you realize that, we're accomplishing the things that we are because of God.
yeah,
He when you can realize that it's not the success isn't really the success or the outcome, whatever it might be, right? Is not really relying on us. It's just us. He's just using us as the vehicle to do it. And so that's the part that's, freeing is like, when there is a failure or something or closed door or whatever, like, yeah, I get disgruntled or I might get disappointed, but then I realize like, hey, like it wasn't like God has had a better plan for than that person to be involved or for this person to say yes. So
sure.
I think that's the important thing for us to remember. I mean, Scripture tells us that He has, a plan for us. It's a plan for good, not to destroy us. And so, um, trying to take that into heart, it's easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not
For
making
sure.
it sound like it's the easiest thing to do, but when we do that, man, it's just and we can live in that have that faith and that enjoyment that what I'm going through right now is part of God's plan. I can't help but like find joy in that, right? Even when I'm going through something really difficult, whether it's professionally or personally, going through a tough season of my life, like I can look back and say, hey, God is using this for something. He's using it to build me up. To maybe I have to be weak in this point to like come out of it stronger and more reliant on Him, and it always turns out that way. So I think that's the part that I would just encourage people is like is as tough it is as it is, and sometimes it's easy to say just like, oh yeah, God's in this, God's got this, but like, hey, am I really truly dependent that like God has me, right? With
Right.
my finances, that's the first one that everyone goes to, right? With my finances, with my relationship, with my career, all those types of things. And I think on a side note, I don't know if this is where you're going with it or not, but you talk about like, is it a teacher? Is it this job? Is it this? Whatever it might be. Like a lot of times we associate our calling with what our job actually is. Um, I think our calling as Christians, first and foremost, is to serve God, right? And to be
Mm,
the hands and feet of Jesus. So like that's our calling. Then it's just like, where do you live it out? That's a little bit different, right? So your calling might not be necessarily a teacher, right? But your calling could be
right.
to minister, right? And be that light into kids of that age into your cohorts, right? Your job, your calling might not be a construction worker, but like your calling could be, to be, with the people in that community or whatever it is, right? And so it's just using whatever opportunities that we have to live out our calling as Christians. It's not always our job, our job title that is our calling.
Yeah, actually, that is kind of where I was heading. I was thinking the idea of I don't know if you have people say this to you. I have people say this to me, right? Like, I don't have the same kind of job you do. Like, I don't get to start meetings with prayers, and it's just like, yeah, sure, that's very true. But it's just like I'm blessed to have the kind of job that I have where I do get to do that. But it's that idea of kind of where I was going is the idea of if we keep our eyes fixed on what God has for us, then I think we're in the good spot. It's when we start looking around at others and kind of saying, "Oh, I wish I could do that," or I wish I could go through what Vincenzo went through with the same kind of grace that he did it." That idea of comparison, and that was kind of where I was kind of going. But the idea that, we say it to our players, comparison is the thief of joy. And
Mhm.
listening to what you just described and that journey you went on, if it hadn't have been hard or if it could have been something you did in your own strength. I mean, you might not have had that connection and that knowing and understanding that God's the reason why you now are the multi-area director of the Hudson Valley region. Your staff is growing, your ministry is growing, your all of that, and it really, and I know it has something to do with you, but it's more of the idea that you let God be the one in control. You weren't worrying about what other people are doing, and that's something I sometimes struggle with. Like we're on our ministry calls sometimes, and like there's I think it's Nick in Rhode Island. He has like 50 huddles, and I'm like I have like six.
Yeah.
But it's that idea, comparison is the thief of joy. So that's more the angle I was going. But what you said, I think, was even more important is that you don't have to be a full-time missionary to share the gospel. You have to, because that's what you're called to do as a Christian. I think
I mean, our
that's
job, right? Like FCA is built on. If I've learned nothing more than from FCA, it's been that you don't have to be in occupational ministry to do ministry. Like our
yeah.
ministry is built on people that are not on staff with FCA.
Yeah,
It's built
absolutely.
on coaches, athletes, volunteers. Um, and I say this, one of my hugest encouragers to coaches specifically, some of them are struggling with how they can live out their faith in their public schools, right? Here, especially here in New York, sometimes like it's
It's
very
hard.
difficult. You go to other places of the country, they might not have all the same issues, but um, I'm always encouraging them like, hey, like we need you there. Like, yeah, maybe you're looking at my job like, oh yeah, it would be so cool, but like my job doesn't exist unless you're in the school, right?
That's right.
Like we
That's
need
right.
you there because if all of our Christian coaches and athletes leave those schools or the workplace or whatever it might be, if our Christians start to just all go into the church, to work as pastors or ministry leaders in the church, well, then like who are we going to be reaching and who are we going to be empowering in those areas? And so, yeah, if you are listening and you are a coach and or just a Christian that's in a tough job environment, spiritually dark place, like just be encouraged knowing like God has you there for a reason and it might be difficult, but you might be the one that he's been, relying on to get that message out to the people around you.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's so good. That's such a good reminder. But well, that's awesome. So, as we wrap up, Cenzo, where do you see for 2026 for the Hudson Valley region of New York State? Where's ministry going for you this year?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of exciting things. I mean, like I talked about, I'm super jazzed up about the staff that we have coming on and the people raising support to come on staff. And even the staff that we do have, it's just like it's so cool to kind of transition from like my ministry just solely being to coaches and athletes to now my ministry is kind of to my team, right? And to my staff. And
Hmm.
so being able to help them out and do the things that they want to. I mean, we got, Michael in Westchester is running his first camp next month. Like I'm super excited for that and we have other plans, but I think you know, practically, I'm super excited because the World Cup is happening this year. I
Yeah,
love
it
watching
is.
the World Cup. It's here in America, which is really awesome. The championship game at MetLife Stadium is an hour and a half away from where I live, and so we're going to be doing a lot of community outreach alongside the World Cup, using that as a leverage point, whether it's watch parties or mini tournaments and stuff. But I'm also excited because that's gonna provide us opportunity to really partner with a lot of churches in our communities that maybe we haven't
Yeah.
before, or maybe we've kind of done some stuff, but this will really allow us to be like shoulder to shoulder doing things together. And so that's always been my goal with FCA is let's come alongside the church and do things together, right? And get people funneled into local Bible believing, Bible teaching churches. So I'm super excited for that, like event wise, like that's something I'm really excited for. But just overall, man, like I'm really excited to see, and we have like some E3
Hmm.
workshops coming up soon, and so like some of those things, I'm really excited to see who the new leaders are going to be that sprout up this year. Um,
Absolutely.
like I said, all of our huddles right now are being led by students or volunteers, and like those people have taken what I was there to help just kind of get going. Like they've exploded those things. So if I held on to them, like I wouldn't have had the capacity or the ability to grow the way that they have and just invest in those people the way that they are. So I'm really excited to see where that kind of comes along, and you know, um, some new territory, some new opportunities in areas that I have yet to explore within the Hudson Valley is kind of neat. Um, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to the people that are going to be getting involved in the relationships that we're going to be building. That's the stuff that really gets me going. Like if I can go to a meeting
Mm.
with a coach or a church or a new organization and just like brainstorm, like, hey, how can we work together? How can we serve you? How can we do this thing together and just come alongside each other? Like that's the stuff that really fills my cup up. And so, there's a lot of that on the horizon here.
Oh, I love that, man. That's so exciting to see, and it is exciting. That's always the fun part about, January coming around is you get to cast vision and plan and then harness the opportunities that are happening. And the World Cup is definitely a great one.
Yeah.
So that's so cool. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you letting me interview you. It might be a little weird. I mean, usually you and me are the ones interviewing other people, but it's cool to get to hear your story, and thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your super busy schedule to let me ask you some questions and talk about life with you, buddy.
Hey man, I love doing this stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate it. For those of you, this is going to drop on Tuesdays as they always do, and it's just always a pleasure. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk next time.
Sweet man, thank you guys.
Yes, sir.